What lesson was the earth created to reveal? How do all things, this is a trick question almost, unless you really pause for a moment, but how do all things on earth, all living things, all living creatures, let me put this, all living creatures on earth reproduce, whether it's sexual or asexual? What's the common underlying denominator that all of them do?
Love.
Pardon?
Love.
Love, okay, love, and not as an emotion, but as a
action. They give of themselves.
There you go. Every one of them, whether we're talking about mammals or reptiles or birds or helminths or plants or fungi or bacteria or amoeba, and when they reproduce, they all give of themselves to produce the next generation. It's in everything that produces, right? That reproduces. Yes? Life is built on this principle of giving, and the whole planet reveals. If you live, you give. This is the principle of life. Can you think of anything in nature, though, that violates this principle of giving of itself to reproduce and instead takes to reproduce?
Viruses.
Viruses. This is huge, guys. Get your mind around what a virus does. When a virus infects a host cell, it actually takes over the machinery of that cell. It redirects the machinery of the cell to use its energies to produce more and more and more of the virus until it actually depletes the life force within the cell, the energies and the material reserves within the cell dies, and when the cell dies, it ruptures, spilling virus into the and plasma around it, which infects the cells there, take over the machinery of those cells, and those cells are redirected to produce more and more of the virus, taking until those cells die, and then the cells around and so forth. And if this persists, if something doesn't stop it, it not only kills the cells, it ultimately kills the host, resulting in death to the virus. This is exactly how sin works. Sin is not giving of self for others. Sin is taking for self. And what happens is it ultimately is destructive and destroys. Yeah. Wonderful.
Other examples that I think are denotations of the earth, and that is like the cowbird also.
But the cowbird still gives of itself. It lays the egg.
Yeah, but it takes.
It still lays the egg.
It takes away from something else.
It does. It does. And so what you're seeing with the cowbird, and I thought of these examples too, Wendell, you're seeing now the infection in which God's design has been perverted to a degree, but it still requires part of God's design for it to sustain itself. Yeah, and I think the viruses can't produce themselves.
Right.
The viruses have to take from some other living organism in order to reproduce itself. And this is what sin does. Sin cannot regenerate anything. It only destroys and corrupts. So yeah, the cowbird's, I think, method has been corrupted. Yeah, it's a good example. There are other animals that do that too, aren't there? So what does this represent? It represents sin, which is the law of sin and death. Paul talks about in nature the law of sin and death. And all nature groans under the weight of it. And it's all, notice, this whole thing we just described is design law stuff. Either in harmony with design or you're deviating from design. Satan has infected human minds with his virus. This false belief, this thought distortion.